Cutters topsaw here. Today's video is water in, water out. So the well was drilled before, but we're dropping the pump in, setting up the pressure tank, the control switch. So we have water on site, and then water out is the septic system. So we'll run through the whole pressure dose septic system. Might be kind of a longer video on the whole infrastructure of building a house. It's really going to be about water in, water out. Okay, we'll start with water in. So when the properties were developed, the wells were drilled. That was years ago. This well was maybe 400 feet deep and produced 6 gallons per minute. That's the pipe down in the ground where the water is. This right here is a Grand Fosse 1.5 horsepower, 7 gallons per minute pump. It's a submersible pump. So this is a well company dropping this pump down into the well all the way down to the bottom and then up about 20 feet so no sediment gets into it. Grand Fosse is considered, a really good pump company, stainless fittings, but this thing's going to sit down there, for decades, hopefully not burning up. So they have a kind of cool boom truck to lower it down. Then pipe is attached to it and that wire is attached to it. So that wire has to go all the way down to the submersible pump. That pump gets power and then it pumps the water up through this PVC pipe right here. So they grab sections of pipe, they lower them down. Not that the pipe's heavy, but the pump and all the wire together going down, near 400 feet weighs a ton, and that's why they have the boom truck here. So this is the process of putting the submersible pump down into the well so that you could pump the water up. Here you can see the rope and the wire spooling out, going all the way down into the well. So well pumps in, there's a wellhead right there. That gray box is a pump protector so that if it were to run low on water, it would trip a fuse. The water comes out into that pressure tank right there, and then power through a gas-powered generator for now goes down into the well, 400 feet of wire, and that's what pumps the submersible pump. So this will allow me to have water on the construction site for the foundation, fire prevention, everything else. Right there in the background is a power pole. The meter is not in yet, so it's not a hot pole yet. As soon as I get that meter in, I'll wire the well pump directly to the power pole so I don't have to run the gas generator. But now I got water. Here's the test. The gas generator is hooked up to the well and I'm pumping water out and it pumps at least 6 gallons per minute. So that's kind of cool. Got water on site, good for fire protection and also knocking down the dust. As for building, it'll be great for the foundation. So it's good to have water. Right here, we're actually digging a deep hole to fit an underground water tank in. So this is that big excavator digging the hole so we could drop a storage tank in there. All right, next step on water, because it is 6 gallons per minute. I'm building both a cottage and a house. It's a little bit of a low flow. I'm gonna, just to be safe, put an underground storage tank in for water. So it's a 2,500 gallon concrete underground storage tank. It's gonna drop into this hole. It's kind of cool, that big excavator dug the hole out, and then the precast company just delivers it with his boom truck and drops it in the hole. It's amazing how skilled these guys are in their equipment, especially the excavator, and the fact that when this thing dropped in there, it just worked out to be perfectly flat. I'll turn up the speed here, but he's just dropping that tank in, jostling it back and forth, moving it with shovels, and then we're getting it to lay in there, and we put a level on it. Here's the tank going in. There will be a booster pump in that tank with floats going to the wellhead, but I think I'll do that in a separate video, and I probably won't do that too soon. I might do that later on. So here we're just working on compaction, getting that tank in. Really want to do this early on while I had the big excavator here. So the actual hookup of the booster pump to the well and all that, I'll do in a different video, but I got it in now. And I'm also going to fill it with water for potential fire suppression. So it's just nice to have a hydrant with 2,500 gallons attached to it. There's the fully installed tank. Another nice thing is I have that new road going down into it, another turnaround place and parking spot. I got some nice compaction on it. That'll actually be a nice feature. Can't have too much flat. There it is right there, 2,500 gallon tank. That'll be a foundation also for a shed on top. All right, let's get going over to septic now. So we got water in, and now we're working on water out. So that's the well system. And water out is a pressure dose septic system. And this as well is pretty complicated. It is a house and a cottage. They're going to have 2 tanks each. Those tanks are going to drain to a lower tank. That lower tank is going to have a pump in it, and it's going to pump up the hill to this leach field right here. So first step was clearing off the leach field of brush. So we got all the brush out of there. Then after the brush was out, we're starting to lay out the leach lines, and it's important that they're perfectly flat. That's why we're using the laser transit to mark those lines on the topography, because the water gets pumped up to this leach field and then it gets pumped down these different leach lines, and then it just comes out of those. So if there's any slope in the line, it'll drain to the far side, and you don't want that. You want it to be completely level. So this is setting the leach lines with the transit after the area was cleared. Once those lines are all laid out perfectly, then you dig them with a backhoe and backfill them with crushed rock. And then the ends of them come together where the lines are going to come out. So there's a manifold. There's one pipe going all the way up, splits into all the different 5 leach line lines. They come down, and those pipes lay on top of this crushed rock. And then when the water gets shot out, they just kind of perk through this rock and disappear. Okay, there's the pipe inside the trench with the riser at the end so you can check it, and an inspection tube. That's that green tube. That's just one leach line, and then that's the pipe that comes up and then gets set for those 5 different leach lines. That'll be accessible under a box, and the furthest left pipe is a pressurized pipe coming up, and that's a manifold to drain out to the 5 leach lines. That's it in the trench going down to the leach lines, and also the pressurized line all the way back down. Then here we are starting to dig the septic tank holes. So that's the septic tank hole for the top house we're putting in now. And then that's the trench that's going to drain down to the pressure tank. So we have one tank for the main house, and then this is for the bottom house, the cottage. That spot on the right is for the solids tank, and then the one on the left is the liquids tank. That's the pressure dose system. So it's gravity feed from the site to that solids tank, then that transfers over to the pressure dose system, and then it pumps it all the way up the hill there. Here we are getting the tanks delivered right here. 3 separate tanks. One is the solid for the main house, the solids for the cottage, and then the pressure dose is the biggest tank with the pump in it, pumping it up the way. Tank's getting set down below. That's a pressure tank, and then the other tank will go right next to it there. This is the main house tank, and then this will drain down into the pressure tank below. And then that inlet right there will be where the sewage goes into this top tank. Here are the 2 bottom tanks. The one on the right is a solids, and then on the left there, that's a pressure tank that'll pump the liquid waste up through that pressurized line all the way back up to the leach field. Plumbing's getting done. That's the infeed into the pressure tank from both of the 2 solids tanks right there. And then the outfeed is through the top of that pressure tank. This right here is the top of the pressure tank. You can see the pump is a submersible pump in there, and it pumps up through those. I just have it hot wired to my generator to do a test run with it. It all seems to be working pretty well, and that's the pressurized line going back up out of that high riser, running off of my Predator generator. Everything worked well. We're just, pumping clean water from the well that we put into the tank out. And then here are the leach lines right here after the test, buried with that indicator tape. And those are the little pieces that go up over the pipe to prevent soil going into the pipe. And then there'll be that inspection box over the end, so you could check them at a later date. Here's a better view of how the water comes out. That stays over the top like that to protect soil from getting in and gets buried with rock. And then underneath that is just a small 1/8-inch hole that the water comes pumping out of. So it's a pretty small hole. It's all liquids. They get covered up with rock and then cloth over the top. And then that's the end of the leach line there. You could actually inspect it by taking that off and drilling an 1/8-inch hole in a replacement cap and testing the pressure coming out. Then that green box right there is what's going to cover it, so you can inspect it in the future. There's landscape cloth preventing any soil from getting in there, and then that just gets backfilled over it. Backfill in the tanks that are underground, using a lot of water to get good compaction. Don't want any of these septic tanks to float up and out. System's been tested, tanks are in, leach line is in, everything works really well. So this video, the first half is water in, getting the well working. Second half is water out, getting the septic system dialed in. Went pretty smoothly. Fair bit of infrastructure, pretty complicated. By no means is this a how-to video. You got to check with your own municipality to figure that stuff out. Everybody does it differently. It ain't rocket science, but it's pretty complicated. That right there is going to be the electrical going in for the actual pressure dose pump. So there's the system pretty much completed. If you enjoyed the video, please hit like. I'd really like to hear your comments below. See what you think about all of this. If you have any experience in any of it, I think this is going to work really well, and it's a good start to building the house.